Hi, everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Bay on KSQD 90.7 FM and live streaming all over the world at www.ksqd.org. Today, this is Amy Chen Mills, am continuing with what's become a bit of an ad hoc series on the closure of the Benchlands, which is the strip of land between the county building and the county courthouse and the San Lorenzo River. And that is currently in the first phases of being shut down. And the city will be, I believe, following its own camping ordinance. And we have a few people to talk about the ordinances with us today. And we also have people who are going to be directly impacted by this closure of the Benchlands, who live in the Benchlands. And I'm just going to check in with everybody. We're going to have a wide-ranging conversation about what that means for people, what the experience of living there is, how people feel like they got to where they are, and what they feel like they need to get out of where they are, if they want to get out of where they are. So we're going to talk about all that today on Talk of the Bay. So just checking in with everybody. We're going to test your mics and make sure they're all working. We have Pauline. Pauline has been living at the Benchlands for quite a few years.
No, I haven't. 2 months.
2 months, is it? Oh, I thought for some reason it was a longer time.
2 months.
I'm so sorry. Okay, well, thank you, Pauline, for coming into the studio to be with us. And how are you doing today?
Fine. Maybe the communication was I lost my address of 18 years, and I just moved to the Benchlands 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got that confused. And maybe I confused you with someone else that I talked to.
Well, I've been talking to a lot of people. So.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I know that you just got treatment for MRSA.
Yes.
And so you're going to fade out. So we're going to start with you in a second, but let's check in with Matthew, also from the Benchlands, living in the Benchlands now. Matthew, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. We can hear you loud and clear, so that's great. And then we have, again, Reggie Meisler from Santa Cruz Cares, we've got so many people in the studio today. It's like a small party. Reggie, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. And then we also have incoming a woman named Chris, who is living in her RV in Santa Cruz County and became unhoused in Santa Cruz. So we're going to talk to all these people. I do want to say that I reached out to city staff. I reached out to Larry Imwall. I reached out to city council members, some of whom I think might have been here. Renee Golder, for example, actually, I think I emailed her or talked to her on the phone, and she is actually in a meeting in the same building right now in the county office of Ed. She just poked her head in, but she could not be here with us. I didn't hear back from most people on the city council. Shebra Kalantari Johnson could not be here, is what she said. And then, we did not get a response from city staff, although I know that people were talking about it because I saw some emails going back and forth. And I asked people from Santa Cruz Neighbors, and I posted on Nextdoor to see if anyone wanted to come in and speak on behalf of yes, let's close the Benchlands, let's move forward with this whole plan, or supporting the Oversized Vehicle Ordinance, all of these things we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. And Pauline, tell us how you ended up at the Benchlands and what you think about it now. And then we'll go from there. Let's just start with that.
I was living at a 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Cruz here on the east side for 18 years, maybe 19. Same address, everything. I am on Section 8. I was on Section 8 for 16 years. I still have my Section 8 housing authority. And got to the point where the last 2 years during the COVID, landlords started charging extra $600 a month. And I thought I was paying my rent.
Wait, an extra $600 on top of what you were already paying?
Yes, but I didn't know this. Then he finally wrote it down on a letter, told me that there's late fees and penalties. So all this time, I've been paying for his version of late fees. So what happened, nothing was getting fixed, my place. Nothing was working. My daughter and I were living out of an ice chest without a refrigerator for months. Mm-hmm. We had mold infestation. When it rained, apartments flooded. But the thing was, I had to deal with my landlord intrusiveness for bullying and invading my privacy on a regular. Not to mention a few other little knickknacks that were totally in violation, which I do have documented from 2 therapists in the last 16 years.
Right, and you've talked to me before about
Yes.
sexual harassment, it
Yes.
sounds like. And I don't know, I mean, as a journalist, I'm reluctant to just say this
Yes.
person's name right
I'm
now.
not going to say no name right now.
Okay, great.
It doesn't matter what kind. It could be just a smack on the thigh, smack on the whatever, or me taking a bath, whatever. But everything was documented, and even with 2 therapists, they both conceded that there was my stories were, or my meetings with these therapists were very hands-on, very, so there was no, where I don't have to go up against to say, my landlord's going to say, oh, she just made this stuff up. This stuff goes back 16 years, and it's all documented.
So I know you were telling me your landlord would come into the bathroom while you were in the bathtub
Yes.
or in the shower. Okay, so that is not okay.
And not to mention the use of the N-word. Racist was very hard in this complex. So when I did get evicted, my daughter, who's disabled, very disabled, she's 15 surgeries in. She just had another one, and we had a 3-week notice to evict because I was dating a black man. And my landlord's terms was the N-word.
So your landlord evicted you based on the fact that you were dating a black man, and your understanding is that he was being racist because he was using the N-word around that situation.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The difference between his version was the difference between and a one's highly educated black man, the other one's a thug.
That's what he would say?
Yes, and then my daughter's, her friends, they got coerced in the swimming pool, and he went up and recognized her friends as Hispanics as gangbangers, and I quote, gangbangers, and then her black friends were thugs, quote. I quote on this. So when we got evicted, my daughter and I were actually breathing. We were breathing.
Okay.
But yeah, all this, I found out my landlord collected close to $15,000 during the COVID rent relief, and I was not notified of it. And
so you were still paying rent?
I was still paying rent.
While your landlord was collecting rent
Yes.
relief?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this
And
person
then-
needs to be dragged into court post haste.
Yes, and this was another thing. It was like, okay, and then, April 1st was the last day of COVID rent protection for us renters. And that's when my payday is, okay? So May, yes, I was running behind by $1,000 in rent just for May. And 3 days before, it was 4 days before April 1st. I think that was how many days in the month of May, I don't know. Exactly 4 days before April 1st, I got the 3-day pay and quit. 3 days, and my landlord knew I'd get paid on the 4th day.
Okay.
And that was the actual 4th day of the COVID and the protection for us tenants. So that was truly planned and timed. So
Okay, well, let's. I think the listeners might get a little bogged down in all the details,
Yes.
but this is good. But so then, in terms of going to the Benchlands, so you went to the Benchlands about 2 months ago.
Yes.
And is that? Why did you decide to go there? Because you had no other options.
I had no other options. I didn't have no resources. I tried to reach out to the county. I tried the 211, and every time I got a phone number, it was just, no callbacks or a phone tag. So we did what we, assumed would be a better idea right now.
And I know Pauline has just had MRSA treatment, so she's getting tired, and I can
Yes.
tell from the other time we talked that your energy is very low.
But I do have to say, I did try out the Outlook, aka Armory.
Okay, so this is just for listeners. The Overlook,
Yes.
or the Outlook, is at the Armory where the city is setting up camping sites for folks.
Yes.
And so you decided to take their invitation to go up to the Overlook.
Yes.
And tell us about that.
Okay, it was a little adjustment. Definitely, it was like, to me though, I was overwhelmed because it was like the middle of nowhere. I mean, you got these little tents on these fake grass corners, you know.
Okay.
And when you go check in, they take all your paraphernalia, if you drink or drugs or whatever, weed, whatever, and they put it in a little safe box.
Okay.
With your name on it. I didn't have nothing on me. So that's not the point. But the point was, so I went and did all the paperwork. And every time they showed me around, it's not my phone, when they showed me around, I had to wear a mask constantly. Okay.
Even outside you had to
Even
wear?
outside.
Mhm.
And so when I went to my tent, they brought all my stuff in. Everything I had, everything I owned. Some of my daughter's memorabilia stuff. But I was coming down sick. I was getting hyperventilating, panic attack, because I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere with nobody to talk to. I very isolated out there. Okay.
So my understanding is there are shuttles that go up and
Yes.
down. And then do you have to be back at a certain time? That's what I've heard, but I
yes.
haven't verified that.
Yes, by 8.
By 8 o'clock, you have to be on the last shuttle going back?
Yes, you have to be checked in by 8:30.
Checked in by 8:30, and then
Yes.
you can't go out again.
No.
And then in the morning, what time does it open up?
I think 7:30. I never made it that far.
Okay. You didn't make it to the next morning.
No, I didn't, because I told them I was, this was, overwhelming, and I was not feeling well as it was. So I had to go take care of my health, and during that time, I didn't check in within 3 days. I didn't have no choice. I didn't have a phone either. They're supposed to try to notify me via email or my emergency contact about my belongings. And since I didn't report in 3 days, they got rid of my stuff. Everything I own, everything. So I ended up going back to the benchlands with nothing.
Okay, so you
nothing.
lost all your stuff up at the Armory. And
Yes.
this is something I heard from someone else down at the Benchlands, that they got rid of all his stuff after 3 days. You said that you signed something that said they would hold it for 30 days. And so I'm just wondering, I just have to reiterate that we do not have someone to speak on behalf of the Salvation Army or the staff up there to sort of explain their side of the story.
Yes.
But this is something that I've heard, and I think that it's something that people need to understand, that when you don't have a home and you have all your stuff with you, and it's all your most important stuff,
Yes,
right? So to
yeah.
have it disappear is a big deal, because then you have nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But it's okay. But let me tell you this real quick.
Okay, and then we're going to go to Matthew.
Yes.
But make sure you say what you think you would like to have happen after this story.
Oh, the benchlands, they've become my family. I've done a survey. There's 200 and I took a survey of 213 people. 162 are veterans, and 86 are Vietnam vets. And how people like our mayor could actually just write an undertone of a letter dated October 14th, 2022. Her letter had a very heavy undertone about dislike for the benchlands. It's very, and she's got to remember, or a lot of us got to remember, half those people down there are, vets that fought for our freedoms. Or, there's people that really worked hard their whole entire life and just lost everything because during the COVID. So I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I know I love the benchlands right now. But would I prefer a landlord who won't charge me $35 for application fee for apartment, background check fee, and credit score check?
Right.
Those are the only things that are holding me back. I can't keep affording that.
When you say you love the Benchlands, okay, there's a lot of talk about the
Yes,
Benchlands
I know
right
there
now,
is.
and there's a lot of talk. I mean, from advocates, people, Keith McHenry's out there
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, it's magical and wonderful."
Oh, I wouldn't say all that.
So let's, I want to try to be reality based.
Yes, reality-based.
So tell me, when you say I love it, what is it that you do
right
love
now,
about it?
Right now, I noticed with Food Not Bombs, Keith and everybody, Food Not Bombs, and the HPHP, and they've been hands-on.
Tell us about what's the HPHP
The medical clinic from
the county.
the shelter over here on River Street.
from
Coral Street.
Coral
Coral
Street,
Street
thank
Shelter
you.
from
Thank
Housing
you.
Matters.
Yes.
People come out. Okay.
And I mean, it's been without them. They've been making it, more bearable. Because half of us go
Okay.
without water and stuff, or it's been without them. It's been bearable, and some of us.
You mean
people-
with them it's been
with
bearable.
them, it's
right.
been very. I'm able to get some stuff, but the thing is, it's not always safe there. It's not always safe there. Trust me, it's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of theft, I've heard.
It's not just that. But
And other
I'm
things,
not.
sure.
I'm pleading the fifth on the rest of it. But it's just a territorial thing as well. But there is a lot of people that can respect each other,
Okay.
that will back each other up if need be.
Right.
And I think this is where we will all come together, and try to hold it down for a little while longer. We just need more assistance. It's not like a lot of us are denying it. There's a lot of us that want housing and shelter, but
Yes, that's
not
true.
not by being told when to take a shower though.
Right.
Not at 7:00 in the morning. If you get up at 10, why wouldn't you know?
Right.
And you can't. A lot of us cannot be molded into that shower between 7 and 8 a.m. only for 10 minutes.
Right. It's a high bar.
It's
a
a
high
high
bar
bar.
for anyone, and I think it's a
Yes.
higher bar for people who sometimes their phones aren't charged.
Thank
they
you.
can't see what time it is.
Yes.
It's rough sleeping out there, so you're sleeping in late. And there's rough stuff going on, so it's hard to sleep, hard to rest. I'm going to go to Matthew.
Yes.
Is there any last, one sentence? Though?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been to city council meetings for the last 18 years.
Yes.
And how the mayor's saying there's rats. The rats have been there way before all that. So
Well, there are rats on the Upper West Side too. I'll tell you that.
thank you. So it's not like first because
Right.
people are there. But I appreciate your time, and
Yes.
I'm just asking for a little more patience and tolerance, and a little more assistance.
Okay.
We need
Patience, tolerance, assistance.
Yes.
One thing that you said, thank you so much, Pauline. And if you want to go and
Yeah.
rest in the lobby, that's great.
Okay.
What I hear you say and what I experienced when I went down there a few times is that people have relationships and friendships, and there's a way that I think people in authority positions, when they're not building relationships with people down there and understanding what's going on on a more personal level, then it's like, okay, we're just going to move you to the armory, and this person's not going to go, and you're going to go. But then it's like, that's your best friend, and that's someone that you
Correct.
rely on emotionally.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to go to Matthew. Thank you so much, Pauline.
Thank you.
You can sit here for a little bit if you like, and then we'll switch out, or you can go. Yeah, and Matthew is also from the Benchlands now, but he hasn't always been. Matthew, you come from Northern Cal. Let's share your story a little bit. And by the way, everybody, you are on KSQD 90.7 FM. And also www.ksqd.org. We're talking about the closure of the Benchlands. We're talking to people who live there now. This seemed very important to me to talk to people who would be most impacted by what the city is doing right now in clearing the Benchlands. So Matthew lives there. And tell me, you're from Humboldt.
I'm from, Eureka, Humboldt County.
All right. And you said in the car on the way over that you would be willing to talk a little bit about your childhood. And I think, are you willing still? I know now we're in the studio, it might feel different, but
Sure.
yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Tell me about what it was like growing up for you and how you started to get in trouble with the law.
So, I mean, I grew up with my mother, obviously. I grew up without a father. My father was in and out of prison and so on. So I never knew my father until I was about 17, 18. I met him. And then soon after that, he passed away. But for the most part, the first part of my life was pretty rough. I had a pretty rough childhood. Mother was an alcoholic and drug user, so she would be doing alcoholic and drug user things,
Right.
And having random people in and out of the house, and just the stuff that comes with that lifestyle. And so I was exposed to that at an early age.
Yeah.
And so once I turned 8, my mother got with somebody that was in the Navy, and so we were shipped to San Diego for about 6 months, and then we went to Japan. And so I was put in a different country, and obviously certain things don't change people. So the same kind of things was happening, just in a different country. So now it's I'm exposed to those things, but I don't have any support. I'm in a different country with nobody. We lived off the Navy base, so there was no American English-speaking people or anything like that, and so that was really rough. After that, after we came back to the U.S., my grandparents took me in, and that's when my life kind of turned around a little bit, and it got extremely better, obviously.
Okay.
My grandparents are pretty much my parents.
Okay.
They raised me, and I was raised really, really well. You know what I mean? All my morals is because of my grandparents. My work ethic is because of my grandfather.
Yeah.
They taught
But then
me.
somehow you got in trouble.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
take energy away and attention from your wonderful grandparents.
No.
So let's acknowledge them, but and that they took over and did a good job. But then you made some choices.
Yeah. So being living in Eureka in Humboldt County, there's it's a really small community.
Yeah.
So there's not really much to do. There's not many job opportunities or anything like that. So obviously, me having my kind of background, I just gravitated towards drug use and crime, and hanging out with the wrong people
Right.
got me into the wrong things. And
Right.
so I just took that, and I had a lot of underlying stuff going on because of my childhood. So I think I lashed out a lot,
Right.
and it was kind of a poor pity me trip a lot of the times, but it's no excuse. It's not an excuse. It's just that's
Right.
the truth.
That's what
and that's what
happened, yeah.
happened. So yeah,
Well, I respect that you acknowledge that you made mistakes. You ended up in the system,
absolutely.
and then you ended up down here, and you can't tell us about that because I don't think you can leave. Is that right?
Right. I'm on what they call PRCS. It's post community or post release community supervision.
Okay.
And so I'm on state parole, but I'm supervised by county probation. After all this new realignment stuff with Prop 47 and stuff, to get people to stay out of prison, because state parole had a lot of, they were just overloaded with their caseloads were just crazy. So the county took some of the burden off of state. So that's what this PCRS stuff is.
Okay, and yeah, I know we've got actually a lot of folks in our jail that should be in state prison that are actually in our county jail, which is a nightmare. But
Absolutely.
so you are on probation, meaning you're not probation, but this PCRS, but you cannot leave.
No, so I have a 50-mile radius. I can't go beyond 50 miles of Santa Cruz.
Okay.
So
Right. So so people are like, well, why don't people just move away? Why don't they go to a town that's
it's not that easy.
Right. Sometimes there are extenuating circumstances, right?
It would take a lot for me to be able to go somewhere else. It would take a lot of time, paperwork, and just fingers crossed, hoping that they would let me. You know what I mean? A lot of the times they don't like to let you leave because it's money for them.
Right. So this is Amy Chen Mills. I'm talking to Matthew, who is a resident of the Benchlands, just ahead of their city staff starting to close the Benchlands down. They are saying that they're going to have enough beds for everybody, that if they don't, they will actually pause the process. How do you feel about living in the Benchlands and getting moved?
So for me, I am just recently homeless. I've never been homeless. This is my first experience being not being inside anywhere, and it was kind of a culture shock to me. I'm not used to. I like showering and I like being in a warm bed, and and eating hot food and,
We all
and all that
do.
stuff. So it's like it was really a big change for me. It was a kind of a rough change. There's just a lot to deal with down there. So
Right.
Obviously, I would love to be somewhere else and be able to get services to get out of there.
Okay.
But it also on the flip side of that is there is people down there that I've grown created relationships with
Right.
and became close to. So which is that's cool. It's been a blessing for that. But if I had to choose, of course, I want to get out of there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So would you take a spot at the Armory?
Absolutely. Actually,
Even if you had to be back by 8:30 and couldn't go out again?
as a matter of fact, I've had 2 run-ins with being up there, and they just haven't gone very well.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, that's right. You went
Absolutely,
up
yeah.
there and then you had to go for an emergency, a
Yes.
family emergency, and then they took all your stuff, or did they give you back your stuff?
So from my experience, they took my stuff and they had it in a storage container that they have. They have a few storage containers up there, big ones,
Okay, mhm.
and they had my stuff in there with a bunch of other people's stuff. So
Right.
I got my stuff back.
Okay, good.
But yeah, they took it upon themselves to go grab my things and put them in that storage unit. So
Right. But you did lose your space
Yes,
because you were
yes.
gone for more than 72 hours.
yes,
You were saying that you notified your friend to tell them that you had an emergency.
yes.
I mean, they might just see it as like, okay, well, he didn't tell us, so that's the rule, and we got to play hardball here because we got a lot of people coming up and we need the space. There's that possibility, right?
Well, I there's always that possibility, but I feel that they pick and choose who
Okay.
who they like and who they do things for, and there's no set regulations or rules or anything that they go by. They do things as it comes, and so in that regard, it's kind of it's not very conducive for people trying to get their stuff together and being stable up there. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So you're saying, yeah, you don't feel like the staff is sort of consistently grounded and dealing with everybody in sort of an equally
There's a day.
fair way.
There's a
Okay.
day. There's a day shift and a night shift, and
Okay.
they don't communicate. So when things happen in the day, they don't communicate that with the night shift, and so forth.
Okay, gotcha.
So-
Okay, Matthew, we're going to take a quick break because we are at the half-hour mark. You are on KSQD 90.7 FM. You're on Talk of the Bay with Amy Chen Mills as your host, and we're talking to folks who live at the Benchlands. We're going to be speaking with Reggie Meisler again, who's an advocate with Santa Cruz Cares. We'll be taking your calls and emails if you like after the break, and we will be right back. Okay, hi everybody. We've got so many guests in here today. It's the most I've ever seen, actually. So we're playing musical chairs a little bit. We were just talking to Matthew, and Matthew is a resident of the Benchlands. The Benchlands is slated to be cleared, and the city is saying, I mean, I have to say that the city seems to be trying to be more moderate than they have in the past with just sweeping. They're saying they're going to have beds for people. Everyone's going to get a bed. Matthew has not yet been able to get a bed at the Armory yet because it wasn't working out for him. Matthew, do you know where you might go if the Benchlands closes?
I wish I knew that answer. I know there's the Overlook place, which like we were talking about that, and
That's at the Armory too, I think, right?
yeah, it's
Okay.
the Overlook or
Okay.
Outlook place, and
Okay.
I've had the 2 times being up there that didn't work out too well. So I know they have another place open on River Street, but they say that that's completely full. So I don't know what's going on.
Right. Okay.
that.
And you were being very honest with me in the car about the fact that you do use drugs.
Yes.
And I don't want to. This is a reality-based radio show, and so we're not going to pretend that people are not doing that. I also want to mention that people who are housed use drugs. drink a lot of alcohol,
Absolutely.
take prescription drugs, and also do illegal drugs, but we just can't see it. So, but you said something about, I mean, this is going to be hard for people to hear. I think it's important, though, that you had used to be addicted to heroin.
IV drug user. Yes.
Okay. And
heroin.
but somehow you got off of that.
Yep.
And you started using.
I started smoking fentanyl.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I know to everybody listening and to, I guess the normal public and civilians, it's no different. They would say they wouldn't see it from my point of view.
Right.
But going from where I came from and being an IV drug user, to smoking fentanyl, somewhat, not all the time like I used to be. I used to do heroin all day, every day, as much as I could get.
Okay.
And I don't do that no more. I haven't used needles in over a year.
Right.
I haven't used heroin in over a year.
Right.
And for me, that's a big deal.
I know you were saying that's a big step
That's
to
a
go
big step.
off of injecting a drug to smoking a drug, and I'm concerned because of people overdose. Well, they overdose on all these things. People can overdose on lots of things, and people can die of alcohol poisoning and all
Absolutely.
kinds of stuff. So, I also asked you if someone could offer you treatment, and you've been to treatment, you would take that bed, but that there's you would take that space in a treatment center, but there's an issue for you.
Yeah. My situation, obviously, I live at the Benchlands. I have a 6-man tent that I currently I don't really sleep in it. I use it for storage for my things, and I try my hardest to keep it locked up and to keep my stuff from getting stolen. But I mean, it's just at any time that could happen, and that's my biggest fear and my biggest obstacle to going either to treatment or doing anything, basically, is because I don't have a reliable, solid place to keep my things, and that's a big deal to me. I mean, that's a big part of the drug use down there. It's people don't want their stuff stolen, and so it makes them want to stay awake and watch their stuff, and it's a snowball effect.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard actually someone who was sleeping outside. I heard this maybe on a different radio show saying, it was on this station actually, saying, when you're so cold and you've never used meth, but you think it might help you feel not so cold,
right?
You might try it. You don't know what you're capable of when you're in that kind of situation. So, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And just if you could stay there for a minute, we're going to go to some other folks with different stories from different perspectives. But we might come back to you. Thank you so much, Matthew. If you have something you urgently want to say, let me know.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay. So this is Amy Chen Mills. We are on KSQD 90.7 FM. If you want to call in, you can call in at 831-900-5773, 831-900-5773, or email us at onair@ksqd.org. And we have Reggie Meisler here. We're going to get to Reggie in a minute, but we also have someone who is coming from recently being very housed, working, making an income, and then getting evicted from her place and looking for a place to live. Her name is Chris Buchanan. Thank you very much for joining us. If you could come closer to the mic and tell us what it was like to look for housing.
Well, I don't know what to say. This town is unaffordable, and I actually pay taxes. I work, and I've had to lose all my.
You work as a housekeeper.
Yes, I work as a housekeeper, and so I had to. I didn't want to end up in the benchlands, so I went and used up the last of my savings and purchased a dilapidated RV, which is what I'm living in now, that, is not operational, but at least have a roof over my head. What my concern is we need to have more affordable housing. because if we don't, who's going to do the dirty work, like the cashiers, the house cleaners, all the menial jobs? And with all these huge hotels opening up now or being built, you're going to run into a problem. Where are these people going to live?
That's true. With the people who work at the hotels, where are they going to live? That's
Exactly.
true. Yeah, that didn't occur to me. Yeah. So,
and then
go
also,
ahead.
considering, this town is basically a tourist town, doesn't the city council realize that when tourists come, some maybe from another state or a country, and they see the homelessness here and the people on the street, even in downtown where, there's ritzy stores, and what kind of impression does that leave them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think actually the council is very concerned about that because I think they have a lot of pressure from the Downtown Business Association and business owners. And so, but the question is, what do we do with folks, right, when we don't have the affordable housing? I'm going to bring Reggie in here. And actually, Chris, just one more thing. Because I know you and I was around when you got your RV, I was shocked at how much stress you were under so quickly to live all of a sudden in an RV where you had no water, no electricity, no toilet. Like I could see that whole situation unfolding, and it was something that I learned about just sort of being in touch with you. Do you want to talk about that, or Matthew?
For the record, I would love to have an RV.
Well, you can have mine then.
Great, we'll work something out.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah. Do you want to comment on that? The stress of it?
Yeah, the stress of it is I'm pretty much lost all my hair, and I'm not well. I'm losing weight. I'm too tired even to do some jobs, which is my sole form of earning money.
Right.
Through the graciousness of some people, I am living right now without having to pay rent, but I don't feel right about that. And again, I do still pay taxes in this town. I shouldn't be in this situation.
Right. And you are, and I know that as a housekeeper, you're like licensed and bonded and all these things. And you've been, yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's really important for people to hear the situations that real, actual people are in. And Reggie, you've been listening to all of this. Reggie is someone who has opposed the OVO and appealed it at the Coastal Commission, at the Planning Commission, actually first at the Planning Commission, now appealing it at the Coastal Commission level. And that would be the law that would tow every single RV out there unless you are. And I do have to say that I had been emailing with Shebra Kalantari Johnson, who's on the city council running for county supervisor. She said there's an exception in the OVO for people who are in the city program, who if it's full, then they can actually park on the streets. But the city program, actually, Chris, you looked into the city program a little bit. Can you tell us about what was offered to you and how that?
There was nothing offered. That's just it.
Just get closer to the microphone.
It's they're out there trying to help us, but there's no help. Everything is booked up. Everything's on a waiting list, and not just a month or two, but into the new year.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Section 8 housing. Well, there is the safe parking downtown, but then you have to be out by, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning if you're...
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
So why, let me just ask you this question, because all these people out there are going to be wondering, well, why wouldn't you take the safe parking downtown in the city? There's a porta potty there. You have to be in by 8, out by 8 a.m. But why would you prefer to park on Delaware, for example?
It's where I can, leave, come and go as I need to for my jobs. And I just want to emphasize that not all the people on Delaware are drug users and mentally ill. But I did get treated as if I was at times. So
there's a lot of harassment.
A lot of harassment. Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of harassment from people who don't quite understand. That's why we're doing this show on KSQD 90.7 FM. We're talking to folks who either live in the benchland, someone who became just newly unhoused and had to buy an RV, who's already been harassed and is just totally stressed out within her situation, who works very hard in our community. I want to go to Reggie Meisler now. Do you want to comment on the exemption? Shebra Kalantari Johnson said that she added that into the OVO, that if all the city spots were full, people could park.
Well,
Reggie, by the way, Reggie Meisler is with Santa Cruz Cares. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, OVO is kind of a mess of a bill. If you actually read it, it doesn't even provide for safe parking, really. It just says the city manager is able to produce safe parking, which is something they were already able to do.
Right.
It doesn't even define what safe parking is in the OVO. And so the notion that there's any sort of teeth in this sort of idea that, oh, I'm signed up for like a city program. I mean, they can give you a little permit thing or they can take it away. There's no real like accountability in this system. And I've been trying to find places here and there for people who have asked for placement in a parking program. And there's either a wait list or they just don't get a callback. So
you mean even from city parking? Because I called myself on Chris's behalf, and they said, oh, yeah, you can park in the parking lot 4 where the farmer's market is. And then here are the hours and so forth. But you've tried to do that for others and it wasn't working.
Yeah. We just didn't get a call back for that. Now, if it is working, I mean, that's great. I just don't think that there is enough sort of, and this is what it really is about, Amy. We establish these programs with little accountability or transparency.
Okay, and by accountability, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, for instance, we're talking about what was their name who was speaking earlier, Pauline, said that her things got thrown away despite signing a contract of 30 days promise to keep her possessions. Now, who is going to hold that shelter accountable for that incredibly damaging mistake that they made, right? Nobody. And it's the same sort of issue with like, we're closing the benchlands without ensuring that everyone has shelter already. I mean, this is just how these sort of priorities land in these situations. And so when we have the priority of sort of comfort and order and law of the housed and the comfortable placed above the well-being of the unhoused and people who are like precarious, it's no wonder that we end up in these situations when solutions are not that complicated. I mean, this is like, if I go around, I've canvassed people before in neighborhoods, and they tell me like a lot of solutions that we just don't do.
Right.
And it's like, why don't we do them? Well, because it's the priorities are not there, the incentives are not there.
What solutions have you heard that made sense to you?
I think one I hear, which is really interesting, is have lots and lots of little camps throughout the city, right?
Right.
That are, managed, but maybe not as like robustly managed as maybe some of the camps in the past where they have 3 or 4 people sort of sitting around all day. And, I think that would fulfill some things for people. I think that would make sure people aren't living on top of each other and they feel like they have space and they feel a little bit of like comfort and
maybe they have power all the time and water all the time and a shower. And and right now that is not happening at the benchlands as far as I understand it.
Right. And if they're in an area with some people that they're having a dispute with, or they're like, having some interpersonal conflict, they can relocate to another camp, right?
Right.
They don't have to like stay in that area and deal with that stress.
Okay. So I have a question. I want to get it out there. To be honest, I've been overwhelmed with people on social media accusing me of being soft on crime and being, this, that, and the other. And people have all these complaints like, oh, they're dealing drugs down there and it's terrible and this and that. I think one of the reasons I wanted to have Matthew on is because, and this is what I know that you deeply believe, Reggie, everyone's a human being. And they have they have reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. Matthew, how do you feel when you hear that, oh, it's a bunch of drug dealers? And I mean, is that true sometimes that you feel like there are bad people there?
Well, I mean, you're going to have bad people everywhere.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It just so happens to be that they're at that spot right now. You go to another town and you're going to have drug dealers and you're going to have people using drugs at spots in another town. So
right,
it's
true.
not, they act like this is like some crazy thing that's going on.
That doesn't happen anywhere else, but it happens here.
It's just only happening here in Santa Cruz, in the benchlands. It's like, yeah, does that stuff go on? Absolutely. But it's not just here. That happens everywhere. So I think that they're trying to single it out, and they're trying to focus on that kind of thing to push their agenda.
Right. Reggie, anyone's thoughts at all? I mean, I'm just thinking, well, okay, people are not going to stop using drugs just because we shut down the benches. They'll just be using drugs all over the place.
And I don't condone it. I
Right.
don't, you know what I mean? I don't condone that at all. But I unfortunately have to deal with it. I have to live around it, and
Right.
I have to navigate past that, and I have to be adult and grown up enough to do what I have to do and not involve myself in that.
Yeah. I mean, people get scared, and I think that's because people have different backgrounds. Like, I've worked in the jails so much, and
I'm scared to death.
okay, you are. Okay, interesting. Down there.
Well, not scared like that. I'm scared to do anything like that because of my record. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
gotcha.
because it would be bad for me regardless.
Okay, well, don't do it, Matthew. Okay.
Obviously, yeah.
We want you to not get into more trouble. Reggie, comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like you were saying earlier, Amy. When someone commits a crime or uses drugs, but they live in a house, there is no sort of like thought, hey, maybe we can get that person kicked out of their house, right? Like,
Right, get them out of town.
oh, there's a bunch of students living next door. Maybe we can burn down their house or something. Like, nobody talks like that.
Well, if there were a house where there was a lot of drug dealing going on, perhaps the cops would raid it. I mean, there's that.
I mean, that's possible. But I think, what it kind of demonstrates is that there really is a little bit of a caste system thing happening here.
Right.
Because when it comes to people's actual concerns of crime, I mean, you look at like the crime statistics for calls of service for the police, and a lot of it is what I would call Karen calls. There's like a significant, something like 25% of calls are just sort of suspicious activity, check. Maybe even as high as 40%. Of course, this is on an old police report from 2018 that I was referencing. But, people are there's a lot of these sorts of like, see something, call the police type of signs throughout neighborhoods in Santa Cruz. And it's unfortunately like a really sort of toxic situation where we know of people who get the police called on them wrongfully, not just for being unhoused, but for being black. People saying, oh, you don't look like you belong to this neighborhood, right?
Absolutely.
There was a 2016 video of SCPD literally just patrolling, and it was supposed to be a documentary of how they do their work. And they said, oh, this kid doesn't look like he belongs in this neighborhood. Here's the kind of guy you would stop. And it was a black kid with a backpack.
No. Oh, my gosh.
So,
well, I'll tell you a story. I mean, I had Chris come and house sit with her RV in front of my house, and I alerted all the neighbors in writing that she would be there for 1 week and parked in front of my house. I don't think there's any law against that right now. And by the time she got there, given her RV's very noisy when it's driving, we had someone in front of my house calling the cops within 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I'm surprised it took that long.
Anyway, sorry, Reggie, I interrupted you.
Right. I mean, there's so much there to deal with outside of, because from just a technical perspective, when it comes to like providing people with services that they need and stuff, I mean, people generally know what they need. They know what works for them. You can imagine like, all right, we'll set up a bunch of like managed camps. We'll try not to spend a bunch of money on it. We'll just have like little parking spaces throughout neighborhoods with not too many spaces, and we'll try to have mobile services for them, right? Because these are mobile services. And like you can imagine just having a ton of agreement camps, a ton of like very sort of neighborhood-driven.
Well, we might not even need a ton if there's 250 people, so they say at the benchlands, and they're going to try to get 150. I mean, my concern right now is that the camping ordinance says 150. All we need is 150 sites, and then we can sweep totally. I think that's what could possibly happen. Matt Huffaker is saying. Was it Matt? I think it was Matt Huffaker or Larry Imwell was saying at the city council meeting, we're going to do this by step, and we're going to make sure we have the beds. That's sort of what remains to be seen. Right.
I mean, it's kind of bizarre because in that same city council meeting, you had Lisa Murphy say both that, don't worry, we'll pause the benchland closure if there's not shelter for people, but then also saying, oh, this is going to be a big change in visible poverty. People are going to be like in neighborhoods and stuff because presuming like they don't have shelter. So what they're saying both things, it feels like.
I see. So they're saying, one, we're going to have beds for everyone, or two, guess what? This is going to be bad because there'll be people all over the place. And, there's a huge concern in people going up to the Pogonip where they're going to light fires to cook and be warm and, possibly for drug use. I don't want to lie here. And guess what? That could cause a major fire for us, especially at this time when everything is dried out and we know what happens when fires start around here.
Don't
Matthew.
worry, I'm a firefighter.
Okay, good. Are you?
I've done it before.
Okay, well, we need you. I mean, we need to be creative. We need to think out of the box. We need to try new things. And to be honest, I go back to Drew Glover, who was recalled, whether you agreed with that recall or didn't agree with that recall. I actually talked to him yesterday. He sent me a whole list of all the different camps that he went around to research, from a place called Kenton Women's Village in Oregon to other places with pod homes where everyone gets their own room that locks. And then there's a communal kitchen, and there's maybe a little library, and there's caseworkers. And like these things happen and they're successful. And when the community gets involved, people who are most resistant, as they get to know people, like I've gotten to know Matthew, right? If you just look at Matthew, you guys can't see him. He has a lot of tattoos, and I am not kidding you.
I have like one.
One big, huge one?
My whole body.
Yeah, he has one all over his whole body. But I can imagine people who aren't used to tattoos and like being scared.
I get it's black and white. There's no gray area with it. They either are totally cool with it or it's totally stay away from me.
It scares them. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's the thing. That's why we're doing this show, is that we need to get past our assumptions about people. And, Matthew has been just very warm and kind with me the whole way through meeting him and working with him to get him here to the studio. I think he's a good person, and I want him to succeed. And so that's why we're talking today. We're going to have to wrap it up, you guys. Matthew, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Chris, thank you so much for telling your story. Let's hope it helps. She's not. She's just nodding.
Yeah, I don't see improvement at this point.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah, it's looking kind of bleak right now. And Reggie, any last thoughts before we close?
I guess my only last thought is I don't know if we're ever going to make real improvement until we stop prioritizing OVO, CSSO, and the interests of like the comfortable over the well-being of the unhoused.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. You are on Talk of the Bay, 90.7 FM, KSQD, and ksqd.org on the World Wide Web. Thank you so much for listening today.